Hey guys, it's Coach Herb, and I want to make this video for your notes, going over the causes of World War One. We talked about these in class, but I want to make sure that you uh, get this information down. You can hear it from me, you can watch it in a bunch of videos, but I want to make sure that I do go over these things in your notes. Remember, you could either have your notes in paper. I either gave them to you the last time I saw you, either Friday or Tuesday, or you can do them digitally by just clicking the link there on the virtual days and getting the slotted notes and filling them out as you go along with this. I'll try to keep these short and sweet and get to the point, but these are the main causes of World War One. That acronym of MAIN is definitely why you want to remember, or how you want to remember the causes of World War One. So let's jump right in. The Great War, or World War One, that we talk about is from July 1914 to November 1918. It was the first man-made catastrophe of the 20th century, meaning it was something we caused. It wasn't a natural disaster or anything like that. 16 to 17 million people died. It was the deadliest war of its time, also catering to its name, the Great War. And here is a great example of the devastation that took place during this war. You can kind of see the trenches in a war zone of France, and we're going to talk more about the trenches a little bit later on. But those are some just stats and statistics that can show you exactly when the war started and kind of give you an idea of what's going on. Why though? Why did it start? What really got us going? Well, a lot of different things that we've already studied, but no single event led to World War One. Now we are going to talk about one event that really pushed it over the edge, or what we would say is lit the fire, or was the spark. But no single event. Causes are complicated and intertwined, as each one kind of causes the other one to build up, and they are very complex. They are not simple, as in, this person got mad at this person. It is much more than that. The way you could look at it is a chain of events. A lot of things happened, plus the history of the involved countries. Most of these countries in Europe, it wasn't like people were just mad at the United States. Many of these countries were already had history with warfare, or they didn't like each other beforehand, and that equaled out to the outbreak of fighting. And so that's what we're going to talk more about today. And you can kind of see a map of who was involved where, and we'll look more at that. We've already looked at that in class, and we'll look more at that as we continue in the notes. Again, the main causes of World War One could be used in the acronym MAIN, or MAIN. And so that's an easy way to remember it. The M is for militarism. We'll talk about what that is in a second. Second part is the A, and that's alliances. Third part is in imperialism, the I, something we've already discussed in a whole chapter. And then N, nationalism, and something else we discussed. So there's two we've discussed and two we haven't discussed. We'll get into those today. Militarism. Many countries were strengthening their military forces. France and Germany doubled their armies between 1870 and 1914. And militarism is a philosophy or system that emphasizes the importance of military power. One German historian who served in World War I defined it as the domination of the military man over the civilian, an undue preponderance of military demands, and an emphasis on military considerations. In militaristic nations, generals and admirals often act as de facto government ministers or officials, advising political leaders, influencing domestic policy, and not surprisingly, this leads to a significant increase in the defense and arms spending, meaning more money spent towards, military goals, guns, weapons, things like that. Late in the 19th and early in the 20th centuries, militarism fueled an arms race, and this gave rise to new military technologies, like the artillery cannon you can see here, or the battleships, flamethrowers, all kinds of interesting ideas, because the Industrial Revolution really made making weapons easier and allowed us to do that. And so an increase in defense spending really sharpened this. And so more money was being put towards it. So Great Britain and Germany had the world's largest, most powerful navies, competed for dominance in the sea. Industrialization allowed for more countries to manufacture more powerful weapons. And the military was given high priority in economics and politics. Um, Militarism also shaped the culture. The press and public opinion um, would be shaped through these actions. Newspapers held up military leaders as heroes, painted rival nations as dangerous and aggressive, and regularly speculated about the possibility of war. So war became glorified during this time. It was looked as a heroic action, and the weapons and all this stuff was like new toys to these people. And overall, this sense of pride came about being part of the military, and it was used as a calling card for many countries. They lived by the strength of their military. And so you could see the issues that this could cause as more and more nations are building up their militaries. The threat continues. Are they going to attack us? And so you build yours up. And so many countries, um, this did prevent war for a time, but it also was leading us down to a point where war was going to be so massive that we could not, withstand the effects of it. And that's something that's different for the Great War or World War One. Our second cause that we're going to talk about is alliances. And in these were mutual defense agreements that meant that if one country was attacked, the other allied countries would have to help. And you had a couple different major alliances. You had the Triple Alliance, which was Italy, Austria, Hungary, and Germany, and the Triple Entente, which was France, Great Britain, and Russia. And those were the major alliances. But in the late 19th century, the most powerful European countries maneuvered to do this. They did it so no single country dominated Europe at this time. And so these great powers vied for the upper hand, and the only way to do so was working together. These defensive pacts or agreements, leaders thought might tip the balance in their favor, but they furthermore believed it would create peace through strength because an attack on one country would result in a massive response from its allies. So this threat alone would deter attacks. In this way, the partnerships in Europe created a tense balance of power, like two equally strong sports teams facing off, like Alabama and Auburn fighting against one another. But the alliance might also transform a small crisis into a massive war by triggering a domino effect, and that's what actually happened. As more and more alliances, more people had to be pulled into the war to defend one another. Just before World War One, you had these two major alliances, but there were also some smaller alliances. Russia and Serbia had an alliance. European countries, like I said, hoped that this would prevent war and provide peace, but these alliances helped cause more war because each side had to defend their allied partners. Imperialism was something we've talked about a good bit. It's when a country increases its power and wealth by acquiring new lands under its control, usually by taking it without agreement from the other side. You can see here these imperial powers, France and Great Britain, carving up the world for themselves, to kind of devour. Some European countries, such as France and Great Britain, created large worldwide empires. And other countries like Germany and Russia wanted to begin their own building empires. And this led to a lot of competition. This competition led to rivalries, and these rivalries led to conflict. And so this pursuit to be the strongest world power also led to a lot of issues. Countries were becoming very rich from exploiting their natural resources. We talked about this last week or the last couple of weeks in the last chapter. But these natural resources contained in these new lands and the labor force there. Things like diamonds, gold, silver, natural resources like rubber, we talked about in Africa. All these places led to more money. And so the more wealth that could be gained, the more colonies you wanted to gain. The scramble for Africa is definitely an example of how these countries competed in colonizing unclaimed land, and it's in air quotes there because it wasn't unclaimed. It just wasn't. It was unclaimed by the Europeans. This rush for land caused competition and conflict, like I said. And you can see Africa before the 1900s and then Africa after the 1900s is pretty much colonized only by the Europeans, except for over there, Ethiopia. Great Britain had so much land, like you've learned, that it said that the sun never set on there, because somewhere in the world the sun was shining on the colony of Great Britain. And here you can see all the pink is different places the British had control of. And so you can see the conflict involved in this. The last one we're going to talk about is nationalism, having a strong sense of pride for one's nation or ethnic group. People who shared a common culture, background, or history. The Slavs were an ethnic group in Eastern Europe, and they would have been very nationalistic. Many Europeans did feel that their group or their nation was superior to others. They would even put down other nations in stating this. In Serbia, this small country just south of Austria-Hungary, nationalism was a rallying cry that the Serbians were a strong nation, and luckily they had an alliance with Russia, but they were not good friends with Austria, but for sure. You have Bosnia, a region located in the southern part of Austria-Hungary, and what was the plan was that Serbia wanted control of this area because many Slavs lived here and in Serbia, and so they wanted to have their own country free from Austria-Hungary. Well, this caused a lot of problems. This nationalism, this uprisings, they wanted, like I said, their freedom, and these nationalist rebellions led to an event that sparked the outbreak of World War I, which we'll talk about in just a second. When somebody talks about a powder keg, we're talking about a barrel of gunpowder that explodes when ignited. And so this was like a ticking time bomb. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austrian throne, was visiting Sarajevo city located in former Bosnian region. Remember the things we just talked about. Bosnia wanted to be an independent nation from Austria-Hungary. This man, Gavrilo Princip, is one of the members of the Black Hand that would be instrumental in causing a massive problem for the Archduke. Sorry, got a little distracted there, guys. As the Archduke was being paraded around Sarajevo, he and his wife, on the official visit there, sorry. He was there to inspect the Imperial Armed Forces of this area. It was just annexed by Austria-Hungary in 1908, and the annexation had angered most of these people. So a group of young nationalists hatched a plot to kill the Archduke during his visit. And after some missteps, Gavrilo Princip was able to shoot the royal couple at point-blank range while they traveled in their procession. It set off a rapid chain of events that would eventually lead to Austria-Hungary blaming the Serbian government for the attack. A large and powerful Russia supported Serbia. So Austria asked for assurances that Germany would step in on its side. The alliance system kicked in, and next thing you know, the conflict began, the First World War. kind of weird because all the information, um, you know, the way it kind of went down is just really interesting to read because the attack didn't really work out the way they had planned. Um, Franz Ferdinand and his party was preceded by uh, a lot of different cars, and 6 automobiles were waiting. And by mistake, the local police officers got into the first car, and the special security officers were supposed to accompany their chief, but they got left behind. The second car carried the officials of Sarajevo, and the third car in the motorcade was uh, an open sports car. So Franz Ferdinand and his wife uh, rode in the third car. The motorcade stopped on the pre-pronounced program or pre-announced uh, traveling location, and the motorcade was to leave the barracks at a certain point in time. So everybody kind of knew what was happening. Um, the motorcade passed the first assassin. He had placed him in front of a garden and armed him with a bomb, and he failed to act. He was on, and then so uh, they armed the next guy with a pistol and a bomb, and he failed to act as well. Further along the route, on the opposite side, as Ferdinand's car approached a third assassin, he threw his bomb, and the bomb bounced off the folded back convertible cover into the street. And its time detonator caused it to explode under the next car, putting the car out of action, leaving a 1-foot diameter crater and wounding 16 to 20 people. And the guy that did it, eventually killed himself with a cyanide pill. So the route was changed, and after learning that the first assassination attempt was unsuccessful, he thought about a position to assassinate the Archduke on his return journey and decided to move in front of a nearby food shop. And so he did, and the driver applied, changed the course, and it kind of just really worked out. At this point, the first and second cars of Archduke's motorcade suddenly turned right into a side street. When the Archduke's cars followed the route, they called out to the driver to stop as he was going the wrong way, and the driver applied the brakes and reversing stalls the engine, and it was close to where Princip was standing. The assassin stepped up to the footboard of the car and shot Franz Ferdinand and Sophie Ferdinand at point blank range. And so that's kind of the story. It just kind of worked out in his favor. It's kind of a stroke of luck that it even happened. You can kind of see it here. Again, Austria-Hungary believed that the assassination was organized by the Serbian government. And 1 month after the assassination, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. This set off a chain reaction, like I talked about earlier, causing Russia to join, which caused Germany to join. And then next thing you know, here we go. Russia mobilizes its troops to defend Serbia. Germany invades France because France is an ally with Russia. Germany attacked France and Belgium, so Great Britain joined in. And you have a true world war at this point. Both sides believed the war would be over in a couple months. They actually believed it'd be over in a little bit over a year, or a little less than a year. And you can kind of see most of the soldiers are pretty happy. War had been glorified. They were kind of excited to go to war. This other picture to the left is not very good, but what ends up happening is due to the advancement of technology and weapons, the war was about to drag on for years, and they won't have those same smiles on their face after a little while. Hopefully, you got all your notes and you understand what's been going on. If you didn't, send me an email, and make sure to answer the discussion question down at the bottom after you watch this video or on Schoology. Okay. Make sure you're keeping up with your notes, and have a great day.